Baldur's Gate is a bustling metropolis and one of the most important trade hubs in the region of the Sword Coast. Lying at the mouth of the Chianthar River, making it a prime location for commerce and seafaring, as well as lying on the Tradeway, one of the most well-traveled trade routes in all of the realms. It was therefore for no shallow reason that Sarevok in the first Baldur's Gate game strategically sought to take over the city of Baldur's Gate, as had he succeeded, he would have gained control over one of the most important cities in Faerun. On top of this, Baldur's Gate is one of the largest cities in Faerun, and by the timeline of Baldur's Gate 3, the city boasts close to 150,000 inhabitants, and as befits such a large city, there are many different areas within the city, as well as districts. To this end, understanding the structure of the city is vital to anyone who wishes to understand it broadly as a city, as well as those with a general interest in Baldur's Gate 3, as we as players will inevitably be exploring the city in great detail. Baldur's Gate is divided into three main areas, each with its own distinct characteristics and social dynamics. The first major area is the Upper City. The Upper City is the wealthiest and most prestigious district of Baldur's Gate. It's perched on the cliffs overlooking the river, and its architecture reflects opulence and grandeur. Noble mansions, high-end shops, and luxurious estates line the streets. The upper class, including influential merchants, nobles, and politicians, reside in this area. The High Hall, also known as the Ducal Palace, where the city's ruling council meets, is also located here. The Upper City is often associated with political power, social status, and lavish lifestyles. The second major area is the Lower City. The Lower City is the more impoverished and crowded section of Baldur's Gate. It stretches from the base of the cliffs to the waterfront, and is characterized by densely packed buildings, narrow streets, and a more diverse population. Commoners, laborers, merchants, and immigrants make up the majority of the inhabitants here. The Lower City is also known for its vibrant markets, though, bustling taverns, and a wide variety of small businesses. Although it might be rough and plagued by crime in some areas, it's also a place of adventure and opportunity. And the final area of Baldur's Gate is called the Outer City. The Outer City lies beyond the walls that enclose Baldur's Gate, and stretches out into the surrounding countryside. It serves as a transition zone between the urban center and the rural outskirts. The Outer City includes some residential areas, farms, and guild halls. Craftsmen, farmers, and traders reside in this area, providing essential goods and services to the city. The Outer City also has various gatehouses and checkpoints that control access to the city and ensure its security, which is essential because of the near lawless state that the Outer City frequently finds itself in. Each major area of Baldur's Gate has its own flavor and smaller districts. The Upper City is divided primarily into 4 districts: the Citadel Streets, Manorborn, the Temples District, and the Wide. The Citadel Streets, which is located alongside the city's northern wall, includes the difficult-to-reach Watch Citadel, the home of the civil constabulary of Baldur's Gate, and this area has fewer residences and businesses than the other districts of the Upper City. Manorborn is possibly the wealthiest of areas in Baldur's Gate, home to the Patriarch families, the general term in Baldur's Gate for the ruling aristocracy, who are often very disconnected from the average resident of Baldur's Gate, and often consider those from lower social strata to be beneath them. The Manorborn is also the seat of the Parliament of Peers, an advisory council that is responsible for submitting official recommendations to the dukes of the Council of Four for consideration, and who are responsible for electing new dukes to the council, which is a very important decision, considering it is a lifelong position to be a duke. The Temples District is one of the pillars of the Upper City. Being the oldest district, it houses some of the city's most important buildings, which include the Grand Ducal Palace, the seat of power of the Grand Dukes, the immense temple workshop called the High House of Wonders, a temple at once second and a workshop for tinkering, as well as the House of Wonders, a museum filled with the creations and works of Baldur's Gate's Gond worshippers, the god of invention. And finally, there is the Wide, a huge open-air market and public plaza where visitors can find a vast variety of merchants and goods, and sometimes even serves as a venue for much larger celebrations, such as citywide events, as well as concerts and weddings. The Lower City lacks the prestige of the Upper City, but makes up for it in terms of other features. The Lower City was originally known as Heapside, and emerged as a result of many craftsmen, sailors, and traders arriving in Baldur's Gate, which was known at the time as Grey Harbor. Originally riddled with crime, the Lower City has become more tolerable over the years, though it is still not as safe as the Upper City, and the Lower City's crime was one of the original reasons as to why the Flaming Fist became the de facto police force of Baldur's Gate. It also is home to the criminal organization, the Guild, where it has its base of operations. The lower city has a few more districts than the upper city. They are Sea Tower, Bloombridge, the Steeps, Heapside, Eastway, and Brampton. Sea Tower is one of the largest districts in the city, and is located in the western portion of the lower city. It can be found on the northern shore of the Chianthar River, and houses the western docks of Grey Harbor, one of the busiest and largest ports on the Sword Coast. Bloombridge is one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the lower city, though unlike Manorborn in the upper city, most are self-made men, such as merchants and those who've accumulated their wealth during the course of their life, rather than inheritance. The district possesses several manor houses, as well as a goodly number of shops, cafes, and boutiques. The Steeps neighborhood is located just south of the Wide in the upper city, and most importantly, houses the Counting House, the de facto bank of Baldur's Gate, as well as being a center of trade and business. And one can find the Temple of Umberlee, the Bitch Queen and Goddess of the Sea here as well. The area of Heapside originally referred to the entirety of Baldur's Gate's lower city, when the upper city was referred to as Old Town. This changed after an infamous tax revolt, which occurred after the old wall had been built to divide the city. Heapside is home to perhaps the most infamous of Baldur's Gate's taverns, the Blushing Mermaid. Eastway is best known for some of the city's most famous establishments, including the Blade and Stars Inn, the Elfsong Tavern, and the Low Lantern Fest Hall. The neighborhood of Brampton is a residential area lacking in well-known features or buildings. It's located on the eastern side of Grey Harbor, south of Eastway. And outside of the city walls lies the impoverished district called the Outer City, characterized by crime, lawlessness, and the undesirables of Baldur's Gate society. Its appearance is that of something wholly different from both the upper and lower city, lined with ramshackle buildings and unkempt, dirty streets. The neighborhoods of the outer city are understandably less organized than those of the lower and upper city. They are Blackgate, Tumbledown, Stony Eyes, Norchapel, Little Callumsham, Whitkeep, Sow's Feet, Twin Songs, Worms Crossing, and Rivington. The name Blackgate originates from the Black Dragon Gate, the imposing structure that divides the outer city from the upper city. Merchants and caravans often stop here to rest before continuing their travels along the Tradeway, the long merchant road lining the Sword Coast. In similar fashion to Blackgate, the neighborhood of Tumbledown is an isolated district in the outer city. It is a depressing and dreary neighborhood that many allege to be haunted. Stony Eyes is a neighborhood that extends out from part of the Tradeway. It is well known for housing a large half-orc population that often act as porters, as pack animals are not allowed into the city proper, and goods still need to be transported there. And Norchapel is an unremarkable neighborhood that surrounds part of the Tradeway, best known for being the quietest neighborhood in the outer city. And then we have Little Callumsham, named after the famed region far to the south, and it's perhaps the most active of districts in the outer city. Uniquely, it's protected by its own walls, separating it from the rest of the outer city. Little Callumsham is filled with many different people, most of them shady and untrustworthy, and some loud and raucous. The name comes from the design of the district, which is based on the structure of a Calishite town. A great deal of trade takes place within the district, much of it illicit, but you can also find many goods here that would otherwise be unavailable in the city. Two major points of interest here are the Callum Jewel Emporium and the Oasis, a theater. Whitkeep is a neighborhood in the outer city that is fairly unremarkable and best known for the large number of gnomes that live here. And next to Whitkeep is the neighborhood of Sow's Feet, which in similar fashion is also fairly unremarkable without notable features. Twin Songs is a unique neighborhood in the outer city, known for its incredible number of shrines to countless deities. Services to almost every deity in Faerun are available here. A gang associated with the Guild, called the Faithless, operates here and acts as smugglers and agents of the Guild in the outer city. And Worms Crossing is a unique district in the outer city inasmuch as it consists of two huge stone bridges. In earlier times, it was simply a bridge, but these days, there are a number of houses, shops, and other businesses located on the bridge. Its outstanding feature is the shop Danthalion's Dancing Axe, where adventurers can buy most things they require. And the final district in the outer city is Rivington, which is its southernmost neighborhood. Unfortunately, it is plagued by crime and criminal activity, making it a popular locale for smuggling illegal goods into Baldur's Gate. Now obviously, there are far more details and things to be learnt about the many districts and neighborhoods of Baldur's Gate. This was merely an overview, and I will likely go into greater detail in time, especially once the game is released to provide greater lore on the city. And it's an interesting question, though, as to how much of these many details, districts, and neighborhoods that can be found in Baldur's Gate will actually be in the game of Baldur's Gate 3. Based on the trailer, the city really appears complete in all of its details, so I'm very curious to see just how fleshed out the city of Baldur's Gate is. It's almost certainly going to be the highlight of the game, and I cannot wait to actually explore the city and see all of it come to life. Before going, I'd like to let you know that I have a Discord server for my subs to join to discuss all matters Baldur's Gate 3 and RPG and related things. Hope to see you there. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.